Elizabeth is a 1998 period drama film directed by Shekhar Kapur and written by Michael Hirst. It stars Cate Blanchett in the title role of Elizabeth I of England, with Geoffrey Rush, Christopher Eccleston and Richard Attenborough in supporting roles. The film is based on the early years of Elizabeth's reign, where she is elevated to the throne after the death of her half-sister Mary I, who had imprisoned her. As she establishes herself on the throne, she faces plots and threats to take her down. But how truthful to history is this movie? Elizabeth, though an entertaining movie, has received some criticism for factual liberties it takes and for its distortion of the historical timeline, as it presents events which occurred in the middle to later part of Elizabeth's reign as occurring at the beginning. Historian Patrick Collinson described the film as if the known facts of the reign were shaken up like pieces of a jigsaw and scattered on the table at random. Prior to her ascension, the film depicts Mary I of England as being pregnant prior to Elizabeth's imprisonment. In actuality, Elizabeth was imprisoned on the 18th of March 1554 and released in May. It was not announced that the Queen was believed to be pregnant until September of that same year. Elizabeth, in reality, was put under house arrest at Woodstock Palace, not Hatfield House, but did not remain there until her sister's death. On the 17th of April 1555, she was summoned to Hampton Court to be with Mary during the Queen's delivery. When the Queen did not deliver, Elizabeth remained at court through October 1555, until after it had become apparent that Mary was not pregnant, and after the Queen's husband Philip II of Spain had gone abroad. It was only after this time that Elizabeth was finally able to return to Hatfield. Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, is wrongly depicted as having been a co-conspirator in the plot against Elizabeth. In fact, he remained one of Elizabeth's closest friends until his death in 1588, long after their romantic relationship had ended. The movie portrays Elizabeth as being ignorant of the fact that Dudley is married. It is her discovery of this fact that contributes to the breakdown of their relationship. In reality, Elizabeth was fully aware of Dudley's marriage to his first wife, Amy Robsart, who lived in isolation in the country, suffering from breast cancer. Robsart died from a fall down the stairs in 1560, 2 years into Elizabeth's reign, a fact never mentioned in the film. He never converted to Catholicism either, remaining a staunch Protestant and Puritan all his life.
I am not your Elizabeth. I am no man's Elizabeth. If you think to...
In the film, England is forced to send young and untrained soldiers, including children, to fight in Scotland against the French Queen Regent, Mary of Guise, who is said to be plotting to invade England, because the Catholic bishops spoke in the pulpits against raising a professional army. In truth, Mary of Guise was not planning on invading England, but was crushing a Protestant revolt amongst the Scots. Elizabeth had also had all the English Catholic bishops thrown into prison before the conflict even began, and the English actually did send professional soldiers to fight in Scotland. Mary of Guise was not assassinated by Walsingham, but died naturally on the 11th of June 1560. William Cecil, Baron Burghley, was portrayed by the 75-year-old Richard Attenborough in the film, but the real Lord Burghley was only 37 years old when Elizabeth was crowned, 13 years older than she. Likewise, she never compelled him to retire as depicted in the film. He remained her chief advisor and was High Lord Treasurer from 1572 until his death in 1598. The film portrays Cat Ashley, head lady-in-waiting to the Queen, as being the same age as Elizabeth, but in reality, at the time of the then 25-year-old Elizabeth's coronation, Ashley was around 57, and she died 6 years later in 1565. Thomas Howard, 4th Duke of Norfolk, was not a cold and calculating, power-hungry mastermind, but a gullible co-conspirator in a couple of assassination plots. The first was the Northern Uprising, which alone was enough to get him jailed for 9 months in the Tower of London, before finally being released to house arrest. The second, the Ridolfi plot, was a plot to assassinate Elizabeth, place Mary, Queen of Scots, on the English throne and have her marry Norfolk. Norfolk was beheaded for his role in this plot, as he had been bankrolling the conspirators. Bishop Stephen Gardiner died in 1555, before Elizabeth came to the throne, and thus cannot have possibly been involved in the Ridolfi plot. The Earl of Arundel was not executed for his role, but was instead imprisoned in the Tower of London, where he died as a political prisoner, and the Earl of Sussex was actually a loyal supporter of Elizabeth, who would not have tried to overthrow her. John Ballard is introduced beating the young Sir Thomas Eliot to death with a rock, an event that cannot have occurred because Eliot died before Elizabeth even came to the throne, at the age of 55 or 56. Ballard was not in England to assassinate Elizabeth, although he did initiate the Babington plot to overthrow her. The movie treats both this and the separate Ridolfi plot as one scheme. Although the idea of marriage to Henry, Duke of Anjou, who was actually not Mary of Guise's nephew, but the son of Henry II, was briefly entertained by Elizabeth, Elizabeth never actually met him, and moreover there is no evidence that he was a cross-dresser as depicted in the film. Further, the movie portrays the courtship as occurring at the beginning of Elizabeth's reign, when in fact it occurred in 1570, 12 years into her rule. The film also glosses over the considerable real-life age difference between the Queen and Henry. In 1570, she was 37 years old and he 19. It was Henry's younger brother Francis, Duke of Anjou, 22 years younger than Elizabeth, who seriously pursued the English Queen beginning in 1578, when she was 45 years old and he just 23. At the end of the film, Elizabeth is shown as having decided against marriage. In fact, she entertained the idea of marriage with several European monarchs well into middle age. Candidates included her former brother-in-law Philip II of Spain, Archduke Charles of Austria, Eric XIV of Sweden, Adolphus, Duke of Holstein, and the Valerian princes Francis and Henry, later King Henry III of France and Poland. Elizabeth, like so many period drama movies, sacrifices true history to suit its own plot, and is yet another example of where not to learn history.
Observe, Lord Burleigh. I am married to England.